asked Mr. Davis about this one. This is the one that we were going to try to amend. So should I just read this and then get a first and second and then make a motion to amend? Okay. So this is a long one. So this is a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading a resolution amending the official list of parking restrictions and regulations in the town of Narragansett in accordance with the Narragansett Code of Ordinances to restrict parking between May 15th and September 15th between 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. to include, in addition to existing restrictions for Boone Street, 3-hour limit on the west side of the street from Central Street to Perkins Avenue, and parking is prohibited on the east side of the street. Ocean Road, 3-hour limit on both sides of the street for the full length from Beach Street, traffic signal, and South Pier Road. Narragansett Avenue, 3-hour limit on both sides of the street for the full length, except where currently permitted, between Beach Street traffic and signal and the Caswell-Narragansett Avenue intersection. Congdon Street, 3-hour limit parking resident permit allowance on the north side of the street from Boone Street to Ocean Road. Rodman Street, 3-hour limit parking resident permit allowance on both sides of the street from Boone Street to Fifth Avenue and on just the north side of Fifth Avenue to the western terminus. Caswell Street, 3-hour limit parking resident permit allowance on both sides south of Rodman Street to its southern terminus. Rockland Street, 3-hour limit parking resident permit allowance on the east side from Kingstown Road to the southern terminus. Robinson Street, 3-hour parking resident permit allowance on the west side for the full length between Narragansett Avenue to its southern terminus. And Rose Court, 3-hour limit parking resident permit allowance on the west side of the street for its full length between Rodman Street and Congdon Street. So I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Do we have to approve it first and then, or just discussion? And okay, so does anyone want to just have any discussion on this one? Because we do want to include the amendment that was just discussed earlier. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion to include include the following text of Perkins Avenue, 3-hour time limit parking resident permit allowance on the north side of the street for its full length between Boone Street and its eastern terminus.
Because it's just on the west side, right?
Yeah. So this is for adding that language to it. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Sure.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion from the council? Any discussion from the public? Ms.
Just-
Durama?
This is on the amendment only, the discussion? This is only on the amendment discussion. Okay.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion to amend by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion to amend passes 5-0. Next is we'll go back to the motion as amended. Do I have a motion?
Well, I think that there are a number of things that Jim brought out in his weekly report to us this past week that need to be incorporated into this so we can make sure that we have a full and complete ordinance. There are some things that I would like to have included. I mean, the one thing that really concerned me most was the lack of CSOs that we may have for enforcement, and the fact that we won't have the ability to order signs, and if we don't have signs, we can't enforce. So I was hoping that you could help me understand how you plan to incorporate all of that into this ordinance so that we can feel that we can move forward with it tonight, because it doesn't seem like it's complete.
Well, we wouldn't order or manufacture the signage until both readings were completed, because it could be amended, and any council member could make an amendment to it. So we wouldn't print any of the signs until such time as the ordinance was in place. And there's a back order of some reflective paint and signage itself from the companies. I spoke to DPW director on that. They're way behind. They think probably at the earliest we might be able to get them all posted by October. And it's approximately 170 signs. And we are still waiting. CRMC, we do have to apply to them for a permit for Long Ocean Road. And we are still trying to figure out what's the best way to do signage there.
Would that be for a permit for actually putting into the cement, or are there temporary types of signs that we can put in just for the summer season and remove? I know that was a projection I've heard from a lot of folks that during the shoulder season, they don't really want to see signs up, especially on the wall.
There's a great deal of cost associated with that, number one. Number two, if they're freestanding, they're by the ocean. We fully anticipate people just pick them up and throw them into the ocean, or the heavy winds could knock them into vehicles or pedestrians, and it could cause an obstruction on the sidewalk if we had like large planter baskets with the signs in them.
So you've already looked into all types of those signs, and there's none that would actually fit our needs?
We are looking at one. Steve Dano is looking at the possibility of, because the barrels are fastened, maybe we come up with some type of a system on that, but I'm sure there'll be some discussion about sign pollution on that stretch of the beautiful road.
Any other comments from the council? Questions?
I have a question.
Councilor
Jim,
Ferrandi?
I drove down Ocean Road, and on the, going north on the left side, there's no poles on the right, obviously on the seawall, and I may be getting in the weeds a little bit here, but the only place I see to put a sign is on the left side with those metal poles. Can there be some kind of temporary sign, like during COVID when, towards the beach, there was a lot of no parking signs, they were strapped on, it was a heavy plastic. I don't know if that helps, but if we can get the ordinance going, we did pass it, just maybe to get something started this season. I know it's getting kind of late, but did you look into that option at all?
We've not looked into temporary disposable signage. It's a tough one. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's windy, a lot of them just stayed up. Matter of fact, I just pulled one down from COVID at the end of my road not too long ago, but it's not the best looking one, but I mean, at least it's something if we wanted to get started this season,
Yeah,
I know we have to pass it
Thank
twice.
you.
So.
I just want to ask Mr. Davis a question. So this is just really, the motion is to introduce, read, pass, and accept. I'm not sure that we're supposed to be having all these conversations, but if you could just kind of just clarify that. I just want to make sure we're staying on point here.
I think it was posed as a potential amendment, so that would be appropriate.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you. Any other comments on the amendment? Anyone from the public? Okay, so all in favor?
Didn't we vote
What
for
are
that
we
already?
voting on?
We voted for the amendment for Perkins.
For Perkins, right? We
Yeah,
already did that.
so motion to go back to the original motion
Right.
as amended. So do I have a first? I
Do we
guess
have
I'll
to
take a-
do that? We have to do that, okay. So, Jill, you want to move that?
Sure, I'll move
Motion
it.
Second?
Okay, so this is a motion to accept the amendment as, the ordinance as amended, accept the
didn't-
ordinance
didn't-
as amended with the Perkins.
Didn't we were going to listen to the public if anybody had any?
I did ask, I didn't see anyone. Oh, I'm sorry, I
That's
didn't-
over.
We see a few.
Mr. Rimmel, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Gina Drama, 11 Fifth Avenue. One of the questions that I was thinking about, first of all, great job getting this done. I know this has been a long time in the making, but the decision to put time limits without meters, without putting any pay parking on any of those roads is something you guys need to look at in the long run, because the encumbrance of the cost to hire more CSOs or to put the signs up, those are all costs without any return. And so there's so many different avenues that you could have gone. I know there was a lot of discussion over the course of this study. But even if you had a portion of those areas in the pier and in Galilee. Those are the two most congested areas where you have fee parking in some of those high turnover places. You might be able to recover some of those costs. And so as you move forward, that's something that I hope that you'll keep in mind, because I think there are going to be some hiccups with this, particularly enforcement, clearly signage, and there'll be some other things as the implementation of these ordinances move forward. So it's just a thought.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, I'm going to actually have to change. We'll go back to the agenda item that we had left off. We are done with the public hearing part of this meeting. So next we will move on back to a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept the resolution for the parking restriction. So anyone from the public wishing to speak on that? Ms. Siliberto.
Is this a public hearing? Do I have to
No.
speak in? No?
We're all set. This is going back to our regular agenda.
So I can speak on anything that happens to be in this motion, not just Perkins or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's motion to amend, yeah, motion to amend.
This is the motion to amend to add Perkins?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I have to speak on. What about the motion itself that delineates all the streets and, you know, commented? Can we comment on that part or no? I'm not sure what part we're on here.
So we're actually back on it. You can speak on that because we passed the motion to amend. So we're back on the original motion.
First, I just want to say something. There is a sign on Ocean Road behind the seawall in the weeds near the curb after Monahan, and it says no parking. And every time I go by it, I'm like, who the heck can see that? But there is a sign there on a steel pole. I don't know, put it there or when, but I always say to myself, that should be over there on the sidewalk. Anyway, I agree with this. I think we need limits, especially around Boone and other streets. Some people are just parking there all day. But I feel that some of these restrictions are going to drive people into the Sprague Park parking lot, and they're already in the Thompson Park parking lot. They're there day and night. And they always park in the handicap spot, which really upsets me. But anyway, so I think that there has to be some kind of instruction to post signs in the Sprague parking lot that no beach parking, and also in the Thompson Park parking lot, no beach parking. Because I mean, like I say, they're already at Thompson Park, but I feel that these restrictions may drive them into Sprague Park. And we want to leave that open for the baseball players and the.
And there's a motion later
playground.
on by Council Kopak
That's
to look into
different.
those, both of those parks.
Okay, so I'm back on this part. Okay, I think it's a great idea. Thanks.
Anyone from the public? Mr. Richards, is that you?
Stephen Richards, 91 Inez Street, Narragansett. The question I have is, the point I'm trying to make is, and when you have this 3-hour parking, it's obviously going to affect, because there's going to be some changeover, but there's going to be a lot more parking fines, and there'll be other things. And some of this may affect the ultimate usage of the town beach, because there's a lot of people who park out in those streets and go to the town beach for quite a while. And some of those people, if they start getting parking tickets and they're not going to be, they don't want to go to the beach for 3 hours, they're going to start, you know, it's going to be it could be a problem. So there's a potential for parking, for this problem to ultimately affect the use of the town beach and the income that comes into that town beach. So maybe there might be a trade-off between the town beach, which is an enterprise zone and uses that funds for the beach, but the town parking fees go to the town. So it'll be an interesting trade-off that'll happen, or very likely to happen, with the angry people who will not want to pay the fines and will not come to the town beach because they can only park for 3 hours. So an alternative places for parking and allowing for people to get to the beach is going to have to be some sort of consideration if you're going to strongly enforce this regulation. So that type of issue, I think, is it needs to have in some consideration. I think the people who live on those streets and the other people who are kind of angry about people parking in front of the house all day will be happy about this, but ultimately, there are trade-offs that need to be considered, and those trade-offs, if they're not considered, could have a deleterious effect on the town income, because a lot of people, I mean, thousands of people use those streets for parking on a regular basis, and those thousands of people, if there are 2 or 3 people in the car, that could reflect to 2,000 or 3,000 people on a given day that may want to go, that may not go to the beach because they're not happy with the resources that the town has given them for parking.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, so going back to the council, this is a motion to approve, to introduce, read, and pass and accept as a first reading a resolution amending the official list of parking restrictions and regulations in Town of Narragansett in accordance with Narragansett Code of Ordinances to restrict parking between May 15th and September 15th, with the language included as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, so the motion by Council Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech, motion passes 4 with 1 abstention.